Here he is. What's
Here
happening,
we
legend?
go. You're right.
I'm very well, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. Look at all
Good
them
stuff.
jerseys in the background.
Yeah, the old office wall. You
Nice.
got to put the memories up, don't you?
Absolutely. Are you at home? Are you at the gym?
Yeah. No, this is home office. Home office. Yeah, no, I wouldn't leave these in the gym, mate. People steal them.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
How's things there? It looks like you guys are coming out the back end of this.
yeah, mate. Look,
Yeah,
it's interesting. Can you hear me? Okay, you got enough?
absolutely. Yeah,
Perfect.
are
Yeah,
you all right with me?
yeah, perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah, mate, it's a bit different at the moment where the government is trying to reduce restrictions a little bit, bring them down. One of the latest articles out today says that New South Wales are probably going to not be as quick. So at
Okay.
the moment, mate, we don't know. Yeah, it could be could be as quick as 2 weeks that they might let 10 people into a gym,
Yeah,
which means we can start to fire away again. But mate, it could be 2 months.
yeah,
It's just all hearsay, mate, isn't it?
of course. So how's it
Yeah.
affected you guys? How's it affected private facilities over there?
Yeah, well, to be honest, like it shut us down. So it shut everyone
Yeah.
down. The two major options that people have done is either gone outdoors
Hmm.
and started to train people outdoors or online. So we've done we've broken up our gym, sent it all to our athletes. So all of our athletes have bits and pieces of our own gym at home. So they've got their own home set up. Me and Carl hit the black market to try and find as much gym equipment as we could to try and get it to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Which worked really well. So they're all kitted out at home now, and we're just programming online. Mate, we use Team Builder, so it doesn't change. They still log in the same as they did. They've got it there. They just do it at home. It's just sort of the motivation. It's a bit harder, just trying to get
Of
them doing
course.
stuff that they need to do because it just becomes, they're so used to having that, team environment, which is what we try and build. But suddenly they're alone at home.
Yeah.
Mosquitoes biting them outdoors or in the garage or they're trying to move around. It just becomes hard, mate. So,
Yeah, one little thing, not just in our industry, but in all industries, it's been interesting to chat to people about what normal they actually want to bring back,
yeah,
and what
yeah,
aspects of normality want to come back, what you realize that you don't need, what you realize that you do need. How's that?
yeah.
Have you gone through that process in terms of business wise, what you would continue with, like continue with offerings more online for people that can't make it to the gym?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
we've had a bit of a chat about it. I still hate online. I just
yeah,
obviously it's a bit different because we are where we are and they're athletes I know. But I just feel online, and maybe it's just me because I'm not a good enough coach. But I spend so much time on videos and messaging and video calls that it's just realistically you're gonna, and this is just from a value standpoint, that you don't build the same connection with the athletes, A,
yeah,
but B, you charge a lower price point because it's online.
hmm,
But I think the time commitment
yeah,
is larger. Like
yeah,
we trialed doing some online work, but just so much time commitment compared to what we do with our athletes there, where we get to see them every day and we program heavily for them. But we know our athletes inside and out. So when we program, it's quicker. We
hmm,
see them like multiple times a week. So we know them, we know what to do. We can assess them, we can screen them, we can do all these sorts of things. And it just makes for an easier and smoother process. But yeah, when it comes to online, I've never liked it, and this has proven to me that I don't like it. I think my missus is losing her mind as well. I get frustrated. I'm sitting at home. So just go to the gym. Just go to work already. So
yeah.
I definitely think I'm not designed for that side of it.
What does the consumer
But
want?
yes,
What does the consumer want? What does the member want? Does the member
no,
is the
well,
mem
our
Yeah,
athletes want to come back, mate. They
yeah,
want
yeah,
to. They get driven. They get motivated at the gym, so they want to come
mhm,
back.
yeah,
There's no hiding that there will be a market for online. Definitely there will be, because a lot
mhm,
of people, a lot of people have invested thousands of dollars into these home gyms, and if gyms open in the next month or so, they'll be like, oh, I might as well stay at home. So
yeah,
there's going to be a market for it. It's just a time versus profit sort of calculation
yeah,
that we've, and back to your question, we've sort of swung around and thought, well, we're actually really valuing the time that we're spending putting together the bigger picture things.
mhm,
So we've definitely looked through our schedule and gone, well, of our sessions that we offer, how many do we really need to keep? Can we streamline them a little bit, and start to function a more educational style model where we're working with our athletes obviously in semi-private model and time frames, but can we reduce the numbers of that and still be still offer what we need to offer to our athletes, but actually get some time where, even just today, I've just gotten home from myself and our physio sitting down and we're just mapping out, rehab protocols, just building out these solid frameworks that we're going to use for a long time to come. And we're just sitting there going, this is the type of value that we can really give back to both our athletes and other people with a bit of time that's dedicated to it. So, to answer your question, we've definitely reviewed a lot of the stuff we've done, and we're certainly going to be returning in a reduced or more streamlined capacity to see what that brings us to make it more efficient for our athletes and our coaches.
So how long have you been there now, full time?
Full time. So my last day was, basically I started in November of last year. So I finished off with Parramatta Eels end of last year when we finished our season and took a couple of weeks off. Barely any couple of weeks off. It was meant to be a few more than what it was, but rolled in sort of end of October last year. Yeah.
So how's that transition been? Because the one thing that I want to chat to you about, there's thousands and thousands of people who want to get into pro sport and have the you know what's coming, have the ambition of that as a career path, like that's the be all and end all. And you're going, I mean, there's a couple of people like you who I know, but you're going the other way, and you've done that, and you've come out the other side. Why was that?
Stupidity? I don't know. No. It was certainly, for me, the reason I partnered with Carl for Athletes Authority, and I don't even know if it's a side hustle, but it was certainly bigger than a side hustle. But it was something that I always knew that I wanted to exit pro sport. Even a couple of years in, I knew that long term, as much as I love pro sport, I love it. I was in awe and still am of people that are married with 3 children and are still in pro sport. It's a phenomenal effort. So I've always looked at it and gone, I probably don't want to answer to a head coach my whole life. And without sounding like a dick, I probably have had some ambition that I really wanted to build something of my own. And as much as I love building protocols and building departments, and the stuff at Parramatta was so exciting, what we developed and stuff like that, at the end of the day, you leave, and maybe the person that comes in after you might continue some things, but in 5 years' time, it's completely gone again, and there's no legacy there. I was very much about wanting to create some sort of legacy within our industry, and Carl has the same feeling. So we've obviously bonded really well over that to build out what we're evolving as now is Athletes Authority. But I probably found it harder to just find the time, because I'm a rare case. Most people get fired, and that's why they have to find a secondary thing. I probably thought, fuck, I'm probably going to get fired at one day, so I probably better have it. I can't just step out of pro sport and suddenly have this facility. And despite building a name in pro sport, when you step out, you don't have that name anymore. You can get, you probably get the name of coaches, but athletes that you're trying to target, like, your amateur athletes don't know who you are. They're not going to come to you because of anything that you've done in pro sport. So it was about building a private sector name and trying to get things out there, and obviously build a bit of a profile around that. So, which was fairly important to me when I was doing it. And I probably never had an end date. And when I took the role with Parramatta, I was always going to do maybe 3 or 4 years to give it a real crack. But, over the 2 years that I was there, Athletes Authority just grew to such a size that that I would probably be murdered by my wife first, because I wouldn't see her between Parramatta and AA, and probably be murdered second by Carl, by the fact that I just wasn't there enough to be able to do what we needed to do. And it was at a stage where it probably couldn't go any bigger without me. And it was big enough to be too much of a strain on Carl by himself. So I made the decision that, as much as I'm going to miss parts of it, it was a stage where my passion probably fell more with my private business than it did in the pro sector. And that's not to say in 5 years' time, there might be a great opportunity somewhere, and AA might be self-sufficient to a stage where I can jump back in. Who knows? There's never say never, but mate, at the moment, absolutely, I'm loving the lifestyle of private sector and these big projects where you go from start to finish and you can put them into practice straight away. You don't need to wait for head coaches or board members or anything like that to approve things. You don't have to be aware of public image, and you're representing. You just do what you need to do. Me and Carl decide something, we action it that day. The next day it's out, we push it out. Like things like that, just you don't get that freedom in professional sport. Even more so over, I would imagine EPL clubs are similar, but I know a lot of people talk about in the States, like, if you're working for an NFL club, you don't have your own brand. That NFL club is you. You don't have the freedom. So to have that freedom is fantastic, and I love it. And we come up with ideas and put them into action almost straight away. So that's one thing that frustrates me in a professional setting. There's a lot of talk, not as much action sometimes. You can go around in roundabouts, and I do like being able to action things that I talk about. So it's been great, mate. So I do miss the daily banter and sort of the team camaraderie that you get just naturally. But yeah, we're building a really strong culture at Athletes Authority as well. So hopefully it mimics it close enough.
That's really interesting that 3 or 4 years in, you knew that this wasn't going to be the whole life. I think that may shock a few people. I think that trajectory is not planned, and it was going to go, as long as you could. And I think the thing that stood out for me when I was in that environment was very, very similar. Thinking long term, and this what made me think of another option was, am I going to do this? The question was, I asked myself, and I was 27, I think, am I going to do this when I'm 40 and 45 and 50? And I think clearly I answered it immediately, no. Right, okay, so what am I doing now then? What am I planning for? I'm planning to leave. I'm planning to leave, and that's fine. Yeah. But what is the long-term goal? And I think I spoke to the guys at ESSA. They were doing a round table yesterday about consultancy, online services, and things like that. And one thing that I mentioned there was, what lifestyle do I want, and how can my job fit that lifestyle? And when I say lifestyle, I don't mean like 25 holidays a year, but what does my day-to-day look like? What can I do? What am I allowed to do on a day-to-day basis? What do I like to do? And how can the role and the job fit that lifestyle? Whereas previously it was, right, I've got this, I'm on this role, I'm on this track, I'm a strength and conditioning coach. My lifestyle just has to fit in with that. I don't particularly want to work Sundays, but I ain't getting a choice, so let's just crack on. No, hold on a second. Yeah. You don't have to work Sundays if you don't want to. Like, do something else. Like, how can you manipulate? Manipulate's a bad word, but how can you manipulate that so you don't have to work Sundays? How can you do something that allow you to have your evenings with your family? You don't have to be on that. And I think that was one thing that I was stuck in the mindset of, and I think a lot of people are, that they're just one track and that's it. Yeah. Like, I'm on it. I don't have to, suck it up and just get on.
Yeah, it's one of those things. You probably have the two extremes. I think there's a number of books and efficiency experts, shall we say, that talk about, plan out what you view your dream day as. Map it out. What's your dream life? What those type of things, and work backwards from there. And I think a lot of people take that as like, oh, I want to map out my perfect day. And then they look at the job they're doing and like, well, that's never going to happen. So then they brush it to the side. I think the mentality you got to have is that it doesn't mean that that's going to happen tomorrow. And it doesn't mean it has to happen in 5 years. But you want to be planning what you want your longevity of life to look like. There's no doubt. And for me, like, if I went back to pro sport, I would be deciding that the next 2, 3, 5 years, whatever I commit to with it, is going to be chaotic. It's going to be pro sport. That's what it is. You can do your best to separate yourself, but at the end of the day, pro sport's pro sport. You follow that schedule and you commit to it. I think people that go, oh, this is going to be my life, I can't do anything about it, then that's the attitude you got to change and go, well, you might not be able to do anything about it now, but you've got to decide, like, if you say, yeah, I want to stay in pro sport for 4 more years, 5 more years, 10 more years, doesn't matter. But you still got to start mapping for the future. I've spoken to older S&C coaches and performance managers now that say, I still want to do this for another 10 years. But they're investing and deciding on things that are going to occur in 10 years because in that 11th year, you hope they're still going to be healthy and still going to have a family to support. And, despite what people think, you can earn some good money in professional sport, but it can be taken away from you very quickly. And usually it's only a handful of people at the top that are making decent money with it. And it's one of those things that if you're not planning for the future, you'll be just like a statistic that we talk about with, obviously I'm AFL and NRL, but the players that go through and adapt to the lifestyle off the income they have and don't really think about the future. And then before they know it, it's done. And they might have made a decent amount of coin each year, but as a collective, it's not that much as a whole because they now have to go find a completely another career. Whereas, you make $1 million a year for 10 years, or you make 200,000 or 150,000 a year for 30 years, you're probably going to be better off when you've actually got a solid career that's producing a medium wage that'll deliver. So, I'm completely with you. I think people have definitely, and I think COVID's done exactly that. It's created this secondary. I made a bit of a joke, a tongue in cheek on my Insta story about it's funny how, and this is no offense to people that are creating content, but there's a number of coaches that I have spoken to or spoke to me around, I don't know if coaches really should be focusing on social media. They should be focused on their sport. It's unprofessional, this, and this. And then lo and behold, COVID rolls around and, it's interesting how they're now doing content. That's funny. You're scrambling together, trying to create a name. You've rebranded stuff and stuff like that. So it's I love seeing other coaches that have done it and supported it and taken this as the sign that, geez, I better jump into it. I just find it funny, those coaches that actually almost took offense or had a crack at other people for doing social media are suddenly doing it. So I think it's probably shown to us that we need to create our brand or create a secondary option, actually build out things and not just rest on the fact that we're going to be in the job we are for 20 years.
Yeah. I think it's a really interesting time seeing all this online content come out and people are in situations, unfortunately, where people are losing their jobs or people have been put on unpaid leave or whatever it may be and scrambling to get something going. But then when that unpaid leave ends and they go back to work, does that continue? Do they see enough value in it to not just be something a gap that has to be plugged, i.e. now? Does that actually continue? And I think the more intelligent, clever guys out there and girls out there aren't in a position where they have to scramble. They've put things in place beforehand, whether that be a financial base, so they don't have to scramble and do things they don't actually really want to do, or they just put resource in place, website, etc., that brings in a little bit of money, so they don't have to do that. But I'm interested to see on the back end of this actually what does continue, and if the guys, like you say, who were caning whoever it may be for doing online content, do they actually see enough value in that to keep this going? And that's a really interesting thing for me, especially the online webinars, all that kind of stuff. I'm just kind of sitting back and going, I'm going to see what happens here.
I'm probably pretty pessimistic when it comes to that.
Likewise.
I think the worst of humans as a whole, to be honest, in that frame, because you look with COVID now, people are told they can't go outside, and you go to the park and there's more people than I've ever seen outdoors ever. There's more people trying to get home gyms, trying to train that they probably didn't even go to the gym, and suddenly they want to train and stuff like that. I'm a bit of a pessimistic person when it comes to that. Human nature, I feel like, is within a very short time of us being back to a normal routine, no one's going to be going to the park again. Everyone's going to be having these home gym sales, trying to sell them on eBay. Now, I hope there's going to be a proportion of people that aren't like that. And I certainly think there's going to be coaches that are probably, it's probably if a coach has switched into an online content because they're trying to keep money going, I don't think they're probably going to continue. I think if this has kicked someone in the ass to do what they've wanted to do for a while, then they're probably more potentially going to continue it. But just like human nature, I think there's a lot of people out there that this content drive and this online drive and this rebranding will slip by the wayside once they get back into a routine of making money in their key job. And like I said, it'll be the same with all humans. I think people just switch back into the process of watching Netflix, playing PlayStation. They're not going to go for their daily walk where they felt so insulted that someone says, oh, you can't, you only go outside once. And then they're like, well, I'm going to make the most of it. And they storm out to the park for 2 hours and stuff. Mate, they won't be doing that. They'll go straight back to their normal routine. I'm sorry, but I have zero faith in the human society that we're going to continue that. So
yeah, same, mate. And it comes back to your point of those that are in pro sport for 10, 20, 30 years. The guys that are doing it day in, day out, week in, week out, season out, are the ones that you've got to be really respectful of. And whether that's a guy in pro sport who's a high performance manager, whether it's someone who's producing online content, the ones that are doing it all the time, not the ones that flip in that think, oh, this is a great idea, and then go, I'm not up for this, bail out. There's obviously some of that because you test things and you figure out what you like and what you don't like. But the respect really goes to the guys that are able to have longevity in them, whatever it may be. And I think just coming back to your point on legacy thing for you, one thing that I realized that it doesn't really matter whether I was there or not, because they just either Rob didn't matter, we just do it ourselves, or we'll just get someone else. and I was sat on the motorway, waiting to go into the club, and I was stuck in traffic, and it was coming up to 8 o'clock. I had a session at 8 with some injured lads early in the morning, and I was panicking. I was early in the job, and rung the physio, and I was like, Craig, I'm going to be late. And he was like, right, what do you want me to do? I've got my stuff to do. I was like, well, what are you going to do? Like, he actually said, Rob, it's not all about you. The lads will do it anyway. And I was like, yeah, okay, fair enough. And I just and that was it. And you leave, and they go, like, a week later, they'll go, Rob who? Like, we've got a game on Saturday, so who actually cares? We'll just get someone else in. We'll get the new Rob in. Like, no one actually bothered. So I think that legacy is really important. I think that ties in with the online stuff, because you can actually build this thing that you're in charge of, that you're the master of, and you can direct in a way that you want, and you have ultimate control. So if you want to, like, you and Carl want to do something, you do it. You don't have to go step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and you get to step 4 in the hierarchy, and they go, nah, not going to work. You actually can just go, bam, let's make it happen.
Yeah, 100%. No, I agree with you, mate. And it's the old adage, mate. Everyone's replaceable in professional sport. I like to think that, you know, I've formed some good connections with a number of athletes that I still keep in contact with today. That there's always going to be that discussion and that connection. But ultimately, you know, people come in, they might have slightly different systems, but you know, a good coaches are good coaches. So if you get the right people in there's no reason why your old athletes or your old team shouldn't keep on an upward trajectory. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So in terms of the business side of things, is that something that you enjoy, or do you leave that stuff to Carl and you do the performance coaching, education stuff?
Bit of both. I do enjoy it. It is not my caper. It is Carl's. Carl's, you know, he lives and breathes that. And that's why I think we work so well together, because we are different. If people listen to me talk, they probably hear me say that all the time. But and when I say different, we are completely opposite, almost to an infuriating point of view. But it's great, because there's things that I would never have done without him forcing me to do or pushing me forward to do. You know, I've said it before, I'm very perfectionist. I probably would hold on to things a lot longer before putting them out to the public, where, you know, he's a bit like, you know, the old perfection is the barrier to success, and probably pushes me quicker than I would have normally gone, which is great. You know, it's his strength there is one of my weaknesses. It really pushes me. And then the other side of it, the fact that I am a little bit more, I suppose, logical and think a little bit more over and over and reread and stuff like that I can probably slow him down a little bit with things that they get a bit more overzealous, and, you know, he'd have a great idea and want to do something, and then, you know, well, have you thought about this? And he's like, oh yeah, we'll worry about that later, and stuff like that, where it's like, well, we probably need to think about that now. So I think together we even each other out, which hopefully publicly then looks like a very clean and calm and collected business. But there's certainly a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. But he's sort of you know, the business side I think is really good, because at the end of the day, you tend to get these businesses, especially gyms or small businesses that start up, where I might be at a fitness first or something like that, and I connect with another coach there or another trainer, and we're exactly the same. We get along, we have great conversations about bodybuilding, powerlifting. We go, well, let's start a gym. You know, we'll be great together. And we jump in and go, how good's this? You know, oh, I want all the Leco. Fuck, so do I. I want a Leco as well. How well do we work? And then it's like, oh, okay. So we've got our BAS statement due. Oh, what the hell's that? Or what's MYO? Or how do we do, like, our strengths are our strengths, and then our weaknesses are exactly the same. So for me and Carl, we have enough knowledge across each of the areas to be aware of it. My business knowledge gives me enough awareness. Carl is a good coach as well. So he's actually across the floor. He can coach. He's done that before. So he understands the strength and conditioning side. But we both have our areas. I'm passionate about coaching performance and our coach development and education. And Carl's passionate about the business side and the sales and the marketing, the ins and outs and psychology of how to connect with people and how to give value and offerings and stuff like that, which is why he's been so successful and currently runs a very successful mentorship with other, you know, people more like me, where they're just by themselves and they're a really good coach and they're running a gym, but they don't know the business side. So to have Carl in your corner is a very valuable thing. I'm just lucky enough to have him full time.
He's the next Pete Dupuis, I've heard, Carl.
Yes, he is. I believe you heard that from me. Yes.
I think I've actually heard it from someone else as well.
Oh, did you? There you
I
go.
think so.
Perfect. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, he's. I think there's a it's a special skill set in business to not only be talented with business, but be talented with the niche that your business is in. There's plenty of business managers and development people that come in and out of different businesses that have no idea of the industry and just apply their sensible business practices that ultimately will work. But when you've got someone, like Carl, who's obviously the co-owner and has skin in the game and has value because he wants the company to go well, loves the business, but also understands what the hell coaching is. You know what I mean? Understands that type of stuff. So whenever you see something up that's talking about, the Kevlar series is something we just released, like the way that's written and the way we push that, it allows people to understand and go, well, this person actually knows what he's talking about, connects with it. So whether I've written it or Carl's written it, it shows that the people that are actually selling, developing, we're coaches as well. It's not a business development plan that we're just trying to get stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mentorship with so Carl does that separately for gym owners as well, or is that
Yes.
general business, just gym owners?
Yeah. So he's got so Athletes Authority as a whole, we offer what we've called a business MBA or fitness MBA. So it's effectively business of fitness, and it's a free online content that we have up there that people can access. It goes stage by stage and a couple of real strong pillars to follow. But Carl also, I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly the number. It must be up to about 15 or 16 now of gym owners, predominantly around Sydney and Melbourne that are in a similar position, whether they're a performance gym, whether they're just a niche gym. He works with them pretty heavily week to week in building their business, building their structure, and making sure that. And to be honest, the biggest thing that people is they just don't value. Like we as coaches don't value what we're worth, and everyone who's listening's probably done it before. When you go in and as a PT or as a coach, you tell someone, they go, "Oh, how much is it?" And you go, "It's $70 an hour." But if you buy 10, it's 60. But if you do 15, and they have all these things, and it's just they just don't value it. That's something that Carl, he's been really good at with especially stuff that we do. The way we've evolved our facility. We don't do anything less than 12-month memberships, which probably other gyms have gone the other way. That you have no long-term contracts and stuff. But we went with the thing that that you're an athlete. You want to be an athlete. It's not a 1-month thing. We can't guarantee anything in 1 month. Mm-hmm. So if we're putting so much front-end effort into you, then you're signing up for 12 months. And we've found that early days when we had discounted rates, we had special deals. They were the ones that weren't committed. They were the ones that found excuses and stuff like that. So we became pretty ruthless and just said, if you want to work in Athletes Authority and be trained here with our athletes, it's not just us coaching. It's mingling with our athletes that are already dedicated. I think you can attest to, if you have a team environment and you have one lazy person in there, they drag the whole group down, their attitude. So we're the same. We're a team. So if we're rolling 10 people, 15 people on the floor and we have some bloke on a discounted price that's not really got full buy-in, it draws everything down. And when we suggested it, I sort of went, geez, this is going to be big. It's a strong ball, but it shows it works. We've become ruthless with it, and this is the price. No discounts, nothing. We add so much value that I'd be shocked if anyone would blink at the price. But then it's 12 months. That's the commitment, because you're an athlete. If that's what you want to do, you want to be athletic. You can't tell me that it's just going to be for a couple of months. Now we do have some off-season packages where some athletes just can't commit to that. That's obviously a negotiable, but. Yeah, as a whole, we've really built some culture around that.
Nice, mate. I buzz off it when questions come in. Chance to see one of your presentations on the plyometric continuum. Have you got any? Is that available?
Yeah. So look, with this COVID, we are reshooting a whole heap of different presentations. One being the plyometric continuum. So we will be doing one of them, which will be about an hour and a half. Seminar, and we'll be getting that out to the public. Yeah, it will be available on our website. Don't worry about that.
Awesome. And then another one that I think is really interesting. Some sports have personal S&C coaches aside from the team head S&C. Would this appeal to you? Does it seem responsible? I'll reframe that, and I'll say, what was your opinion on them kind of facilities and them kind of coaches when you were in pro sport? And your players, I don't know if this actually happened, but if hypothetically, if it didn't, that we're going to an S&C coach elsewhere, and not not bypassing you, but just getting input from elsewhere. What was your opinion on that when you're in pro sport?
Yeah, definitely. I'll preface the answer by saying we didn't really have a lot of that, if any. Okay. It is less common in Australian sport, mainly because our boys make money. Don't get me wrong, but they certainly don't make 20 million a year.
Yeah.
So although they are well paid for what they do, some would say some probably need more than what they're on, but they certainly don't have so much disposable income that they're just going to be hiring full-time chefs, all the stuff you hear in, say, the NFL or EPL. Yeah. They're definitely not on that. And because our off-seasons are quite short in comparison to anything else. So it's much more innate in the NFL. You'll have quite a few months off. Where the players will often go home, where they'll then seek out the private side of things. So they've built more of a connection with the private sector. The AFL, the NRL, at 18 years of age, they go straight into the pros. That's sort of your draft time. And when you roll in, the younger boys can get up to NRL about 6 weeks in their off season, and that's it. So 6 weeks is enough time to take 2 weeks off getting drunk, maybe go on a 2-week holiday, and then you basically got 2 weeks to train yourself ready to go back to the preseason. So they probably don't have that much access to or the need to hunt a private person out. But in saying that, in the AFL side of things, we had a few people when they went back to Melbourne. The older boys had sort of 10 weeks off. So they had friends which are PTs. They'd touch base and do some off-feet conditioning work with some other coaches and stuff. I've got absolutely no issue with that. I really like the fact that they've got other voices. I've always been a man that if I'm working with an athlete that works with another coach, I will always contact that coach. And I had the same thing. I respected the coaches that when they took one of my athletes, they would email me and say, this is what's happening, this is what we're going through. So I really respect that. So I think in that context, you need to be in communication. And I often hear a lot of private sector people, especially in the US, that talk about how much they email, update, and get along with, obviously, the S&C coordinators and stuff like that. To answer the question around what I think of it actually happening and if a pro athlete should get a personal trainer or anything, it's a tough one because part of me says, well, at the end of the day, if you've got enough money for it and you've got someone that can give you some really individualized attention, 100% go for it. You've got someone that's got that, you are their interest, then go for it. That's not to say that a S&C coach in the pro sector doesn't have you at front of mind and look after you, but there's no doubting that if you've got 50 players on your list, that you will have players that are sort of grouped in groups to develop, and between the physio and yourself and everything like that, you'll be individualizing things. There's no doubt about it. But you can't argue with one-on-one stuff when it comes to individualization. But then you sort of ask the question, well, do you really need that? Because you probably get two types of people in the pro sport. You get the players that when you give them their program, if any of it is the same as the person next to them, they go, oh, well, no, I want to do something different. So they're the ones that like to be different. But then you've got other players that like, well, why aren't I squatting when everyone else is squatting? And it's like, well, I thought this is for you. No. Can I just squat? So then they go and move across and just jump in with their mates. So the longer you are in pro sport and the longer you're with people, you start to realize there's those two types of people that one group want to be different, one group want to be the same. And if you've taken groups, from a coaching standpoint, it's so hard to coach 10, 11, 13 people that have completely different programs. And the group mentality gets lost. The team gets lost. The drive and the feel gets lost. If you had everyone doing an A1 that was completely different, there's very little energy and motivation. When you have 90% of the group doing the same A1, they're all squatting together, 4 racks going, 3 people per rack. That energy builds. And I would argue the value of that is higher than maybe having a slightly more individualized program for that A1. But it really depends on the athlete. And that's why you like it. In any team setting, your younger boys are going to have more individualized programs because they're going to be slightly different. They're not adapted yet. And your rehab group are going to have more individualized programs. So when I'm building a department or talk to someone about the layout of a department, I've always believed and always pushed for you have your head S&C that works with the performance, which is the players that aren't young and the players that don't have an injury. And then you have a coach that works with the injured and a coach that works with the young people. because what you find in departments that are under staffed is you get your two energy zaps. So you have your head strength conditioning coach on the floor, and because player A is uninjured and really good at lifting, well, you don't spend as much time with them because they don't need it. So you spend your time with the injured, you spend your time with the young ones. So funnily enough, and the ironic thing is, the guys that need to perform and have the high-end stuff, they're not getting coached as much because they don't need it. When they do need it because they need to get better at what they do. But it's the old, what is it, squeaky wheel gets the oil. And it's the same, you spend more time with your injuries and your rehabbers and your younger guys, and these elite uninjured players, they actually don't get as much attention because they don't need it because, they'll be right. But I'm a big believer that they're the ones that if you can find another 1% on them, they're usually they're your premier players. Get involved with them. Yeah. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
No, absolutely. Do you have any guys that come to you who are pro athletes and you're their secondary coach? Like
not in the Australian sector. Okay. No, I've got a number of athletes I've worked with before in off seasons and stuff like that. Will pop in for some sessions here and there. But no, I'm not a secondary coach for anyone. No.
Okay. Another question: being in the private sector, do you find coaching predominantly one-on-one more enjoyable than in the pro setting? I'm guessing one-on-one versus large groups.
I personally, actually, I'm not a massive fan of one-on-one. I don't think most people need it. I like semi-private, whether that be 3 to 6 people, because if I'm one-on-one, you eventually, at some stage, become a rep counter. Even if you do everything you can not to, there is a point where you can't keep talking, and it's a middle, and you're just counting reps. When you have multiple people, you can use different energies, and I much prefer having a group of people working together because you have better banter, you have better energy. It is a far better environment. So I'll do some one-on-one field stuff with people. I'll bring a couple of people through one-on-one when they need it, but very rarely will I do one-on-one, simply because I don't think it's as effective personally.
Nice. How important is the banter for keeping coaches in pro sport? I think that's huge. If it wasn't for that, I'm sure there'd just be a massive turnover and people looking for things elsewhere. That's what keeps guys there.
100%. Well, I'm sure if you asked any of my ex-athletes, they'd say I'm the funniest person they know. But that's just my opinion. Yeah. No, mate, 100%. And that's why you see these guys that, and what frustrates you see probably younger coaches that come in, often going into the sports science role, which is the typical graduate role where they go in and do sports science, that look at a 50-year-old coach and go, like, what he's doing isn't really that scientific. Like, I don't really, haven't we shown that that's not as effective and all that? But these guys have been in it for 30, 40 years. And the reason there is because they connect and players enjoy. I've said it before that you can have a terrible program run by someone that gets buy-in, and it's going to be far more effective than this perfect program run by an absolute stiff board that can't talk or connect. And, pro sport's a bit of salesmanship as well. Like you want to get players to do things, and I hope this isn't a secret, but you don't always tell the truth. You kind of bend that a little bit. If I want a player to pay more attention in doing something, then, I'll try and link it back to what they want. Like, if they want speed, I will tell them, the 13 exercises they're doing, exactly why it's going to improve their speed, even though it might be not completely research based or anything like this. It's massaging the role to try and make sure your players get buy-in and believe. Because if they believe in it, then they're ready to go. And one of our physios had a discussion with around cupping and dry needling and things like this, because there's a lot of talk about these things aren't evidence based. There's no proof of anything. Blah blah blah. I've always said if one of my athletes has an option, the more options we can give them, the better. Providing it's do no harm. It's not like we've got injectables and you just go hell for leather. But things like massage, dry needling, cupping and all that type of stuff, if you cup something, if they've got this persistent issue that they just get annoyed about, and you start cupping them and they go, I really enjoy that, then you better believe that I'm going to tell them why it might help them, even though it's maybe not completely accurate. The biggest thing is you just don't want them to be reliant on it. Yeah. So the discussion needs to be focused around, let's talk cupping, for example. it's fantastic to cup on your quad. It's promoting blood flow, moving lymphatic. But once we've done that, we need to make sure we get you into the gym and do X, Y, and Z. Because if we just sit on this, you're never going to get better. So straight away, they're like, oh, great. So what I enjoy is helping me right now, but I know I need to use that as a stepping stone. And that's a big difference to an athlete then becoming reliant if I was to say to him, oh, you need to get this every week. Otherwise, you're just not going to be able to run. That's a whole different kettle of fish when you start putting these things on athletes and making them reliant on these modalities that are kind of wish-washy.
Mm-hmm. Interesting little story that I heard of Sam Allardyce when he was at Bolton in the Premier League in probably early 2000s, mid-2000s. Recovery vibration plates. At half-time, I think they had 15 of them, and they'd come in and he'd go, and he was apparently a master at this. You recover 5% more if you all go on them for 10 minutes out of the 15 minutes that they get at half-time.
Yep.
Done. All the lads, he didn't have a clue. Not a clue.
100%.
But somebody had gone, oh, they might work. So they told the lads that. They're all on them. They're feeling good, whether it works or not. Who actually cares? And they were out and about. And I think he did that quite a bit. So it's definitely an art to manipulate the feeling of whether something's working or not.
And it's the mind games. Like my first real exposure to that was my first high performance manager, John Quinn, when I was at the Giants. He was at Essendon for 10 years prior to that. Track and field coach, very, very smart guy, but very art of coaching, really understood what players needed and wanted. We were it was our first year. Our boys were all 18, 19-year-olds they get pumped every weekend. And we're playing Essendon, and Essendon was smashing us. And at halftime, Quinny walks in, he goes, "Come on, boys. I've spoken to Essendon. I know that they're going to fail in the second half. All they've done is run all week. Because all they knew they're going to play us. They knew we weren't going to be any good. So they ran them all week. They've got nothing left in them, mate. Nothing left. So that second half, our boy, he didn't talk to me. He had no freaking idea. He just made it up on the spot. And our players went out, and we didn't win. But the run in our boys, you could see that they just kept grinding. They kept grinding. When you've got that light at the end of the tunnel to give them that grind, suddenly it makes a big difference. So that was sort of the first hint of how you can start to. You don't want to lie all the time, or you don't want to bend the truth in a poor manner, but you want to be a salesman. You want to get buy-in and give energy and promote and stuff like that. So you don't want to be that bloke if your best guy's there stretching his hamstring and go over, look, do you know that static stretching actually decreases power output within the first? He doesn't care, mate. No one cares. And they're the ones that are like, can you just get away from me? Because he's going to do it anyway. So you've got to connect with the players, 100%. You know.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to have a little chat around content and the content you put out and the content that Athletes Authority put out. It's been interesting to see, as we connected probably 5 or 6 years ago. You were at the Giants then, weren't you? So it's been interesting to see your progression and your journey of what you put out and how you put it out and all that discussion around it and things like that. Do you have a very structured plan of what you want to put out and why and how? Or are you very much just, this is sparked my interest, I'm going to do this and it's going out?
Yeah. So to separate, for me personally, absolutely not. I'll have weeks where I put out 5 posts. I'll have weeks I put out nothing. And that's based probably against what a lot of people would suggest in the social media side. But, and again, I don't want to sound like a wanker saying this, but I'm not a fake, I'm not a fake coach. I'm not someone that as much as I want to get content out to people, I don't want to just put stuff out for the sake of it. I'm not a business that needs to keep engagement to make sales as such. I started being on Instagram for one question and one question only was, if I was a young coach, would this help me? That is the only reason I started it. So anything I put up, I ask the same question is, if I was a young coach, would this help me? If it would, I put it up. If it wouldn't, then I don't bother. Mixed in with that is hopefully a little bit of comedic personal life that I find either funny or of interest to post up. But generally, obviously, any content piece that I put out is to try and help younger coaches. So there'll be weeks where I see things every day and I go, that'd be unreal. I'm going to post that or do this. I have an idea and do that. So there's certainly no stream. It's not like I do a week of recovery options and then a week of pure exercise and stuff like that. I try and put out different themes. some coaching corner stuff and coach's eye stuff that helps there. Try and put out some general sayings or quotes that might help people simplify more complex methods. And I think if anyone knows me, they know I love a good system or process that you can apply to the masses. So if there's any chance that I can take something and simplify it and systemize it, I try to. So that's probably my philosophy from it. With Athletes Authority, which is predominantly done by Carl, obviously ideas are created by the both of us, but he drives the Athletes Authority page. It saves me having to think of multiple content pieces because I struggle for my own, let alone two pieces. But he does. We don't really have a plan. We have themes that we do run with. So firstly, the process is we like to think of ourselves as the voice of athletes. So we will put a lot of pieces out that may help athletes, defend athletes in certain areas, like the topic of transgender. We're pretty passionate against at the moment in sport because we just think we have athletes that are directly affected by transgender athletes in their teams and they're losing spots. So whether that's political or not, that's something we push. So there's those type of things where we feel that we try and be the voice of an athlete to help out, or coaches. But then the other part of it is also trying to highlight what we do in our facility that's going to help other coaches. So, you can choose to follow it or not, but this is how we do our ACL rehab. These are the things that we do, blah, blah, blah. Great if you want to follow it. If you don't, that's no worries. But trying to give an insight into what we do and why we do it. And then we try and obviously put a spotlight on our athletes as well. And if we have rugby league players or track and field players, where they've come from, why they joined us, what they've gotten out of us, what can help other people and stuff like that. And then obviously the bigger one, which is now a little bit more coach education, which is something that we're very passionate about, trying to just lift the quality and standard of everyone. I'm a hater of people that talk about secret this, secret that, keep shit. Like, it's all bullshit, to be honest, mate. There's no secret. So I tell you what, like NFL team 1 is squatting and so is NFL team 2. Like, it's not rocket science, but I'm a big fan of trying to get things out there. And I always like the philosophy that if no matter how, I suppose, advanced or how amazing I think an idea is that we put out, by putting it out there, forces us to keep moving the ball forward, because now everyone else has it. Well, we need to keep going forward. We still need to be ahead of the game. So it's a bit of a way of us keeping ourselves challenged by being very open and putting everything we have out there and giving people a lot of content, because if we can inspire other coaches to do similar things, or at least ideas of theirs. There's a lot of exercises that I'll post that I love and people love, and then someone will message me with a variation. And it's been multiple times. I'm like, actually, I like that variation much better. So I'm actually going to steal that one and use that. So for my own education, it's been great as well, because it builds that sharing. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question at all, but it probably says that no, we don't really have a plan. We have themes and beliefs, and that's what we follow. So every post we put up, we just make sure that it fits in with what we believe in and what we theme. And some days we have a heap of them, some days we don't have any. But that's more to the fact that we just don't want to put up crap for the sake of putting up crap.
Do you find that Aussies are more open than potentially other parts of the world in terms of sharing? Do you think you guys are happy to do that over and above others? Not to stitch you up here and name names, but
I'd probably say
I do. The only
yes.
reason I asked that is that I do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. I think maybe because our professional sports are probably not as political and corporate-y, if that's even a word, corporate-y. Yep. But you look at an NFL team, they're or an EPL team, they're billion-dollar owners, huge sponsorships, multiple levels, and we are like that, but on a much smaller scale. You know what I mean? So I just think it's probably a little bit more relaxed in the fact that it's not taken quite as serious. But I can see that if a baseball team spends $1 million on a piece of software that they're using with their players, they probably don't want to share that. So it's a bit different if a coach makes up a new exercise that costs him nothing and he'll put it out there. Like there's going to be levels of it. So, and to be honest, even in professional sport, mate, you got to be an idiot not to understand what you should and shouldn't share. There's discussions you have that you just know you're not going to share, and names and stuff like that. But in this day and age, mate, I don't remember when I posted videos, most of the athletes want to be tagged in it. They want to be saying that tag me in it. When are you going to be? Put me in a video, mate, and stuff like that. So they actually get more into it than you do. But yeah, I'd say definitely. But I think that's probably more from a standard of they spend a lot more money and they invest a lot more money into such advanced and in-depth things that I could see why they might just put a blanket rule on. Yeah, just don't tell anyone anything. So
one last thing before I let you go. Back to the content and social media stuff. Is there any influence, not actual influencers, but influences that you have to guide and influence you, how you go about things, how you word things, how you present things, videos, articles, infographics, whatever it may be? Or is just pure
not
creative?
Not, like I see different things all over the place. Not one, but like, to be honest, the best, probably the most changing one was Nick Grantham gave a talk at the ASCA conference. And it was probably a bit unlucky because at the same time, Darren Burgess was giving a talk. So there was probably quite a few people watching Burjo, but his slide deck was just the crispiest thing I've ever seen. It was so clean, and the way he presented, I definitely looked at that and thought I'd love to get a bit more serious with the slides. And to be honest, that pushed me to actually go back and reinvent a lot of my slides and stuff like that. But yeah, there's probably I think you look around now and there's so many software programs and so many things that can help people out and everything. I've sort of learned anything that I do is all done on Keynote. So I've gotten pretty handy on doing animations and recording and different video edits and stuff on Keynote. So I really enjoy doing that. It's a nice little challenge trying to figure things out. But yeah, there's even people like Brett Bartholomew is one of those ones that is, he sort of led the way with all of the social media stuff. I'm certainly, I don't have a book, I don't have anything like that I'm going to push as much content as he does. But yeah, they're the type of people that you sport I suppose it clears the path to be like, well, you know what, this is a legit thing. And, Juggernaut Training posted a while ago around, there's Instagram coaches and then coaches that are on Instagram. And I've always liked that because I really, I'm in the trenches every day and I have been for the past 15 years. And I don't do online training, not that changed anything, but it's one of those things. I believe personally, I've got a lot of stuff to offer people, and I try and put it out there as honestly as I can. And if people like it, they do. If they don't worry about it. So, I reckon I'm probably inspired by everyone I see on Instagram. I've probably stolen a little bit off everyone to combine it together. And I'm sure there's things I've seen that I completely forgot that I saw, and I thought it was my own idea. And it gets a bit like that. So, no one specifically, but yeah, hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea.
No, absolutely. Nick Grantham's are good. Nick Winkelmann's are also up there. Don't know if you've seen Nick.
Yes, I did. Oh, well, he's got another level now. I saw him. He presented at the ASCA last year, and he presented on his language of coaching, obviously with the release of his book now.
Yeah.
But obviously with the release, he's gone and gotten a lot of animations done up for it. But they're next level at the moment that are coming out. He's done a phenomenal job. So that probably sets the bar, doesn't it? So if I release a book, I'm going to have to go out and get an animator to go through and build all these graphics.
People are up in the game, seriously. Yeah, massively.
Yeah, agreed. So
I'm going to let you go. Thanks, mate.
Easy, man.
Appreciate that.
Thank you very much, man. It's been a good chat.
Yeah, likewise. It's good to connect again. And I'm keen to see how things go when you get back to work and kick things on again, no doubt.
Mate, looking forward to it. It'd be great to actually be talking and seeing athletes again instead of WhatsApp and Instagram and everything else.
Absolutely, I'm no doubt. Well, take care. And
thank you, man. I appreciate it. Pal. And it's good to talk face to face, not just over the podcast.
Likewise, yes, absolutely. See you, mate. Take care.
See you, legend. Thanks, brother.